got to celebrate it. You gotta make sure that you treasure it. School and life, forget the nonsense. It's irrelevant. Be what you put your mind to. You could be the president. Greatness you achieve for your people, you gotta represent.
It goes up, up and away, yeah. Today's the best day ever, you're off and on your way. Up, up and away, yeah. We parlay in the morning, we party throughout the day. Up, up and away, yeah. Up, up, underlay, yeah. Up, up and away, yeah. Schooling like the only way.
I'm your host, Casey Williams, and welcome to another episode of Schooling Life. Today, our topic is activism. But before we begin, I would like to introduce you all to my guests.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Elijah.
I'm Relda.
I'm Precious.
I'm Phoenix.
So, as we all have been around, we've been visible, we've been watching the news, Black Lives Matter has been one of the biggest trending topics for 2020. Why is it? What are some important things for us to understand about Black Lives Matter?
I feel as if it's important to understand that when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not meaning Black Lives Matter more than everybody else. We want equality and yeah.
I would agree with that statement. I think it's a statement that isn't to disregard that other people are going through issues, but to say that right now it's a topic that we should be addressing.
I agree.
All right. So we all agree that Black Lives Matter. Now, we also know that there's a political component. So you have the general idea of Black Lives Matter, and then you have the political platform. How do we feel about the political platform?
I feel like some people are using it just for a profit, like, because they know people will buy it. Like us, we're gonna buy it because we support the actual movement, but they're just trying to make money off of it.
Okay.
Politically, I don't like the name Black Lives Matter politically because it makes sense to start with Black Lives Matter, but in actuality, all lives matter, and that should have been the title. And it might be a bigger subject to just start on, but I think that if you would have started there, it might have had better, let me say, not addiction, but it would have stuck better around the world.
Okay. So,
Wait,
let's go ahead. Oh,
I disagree.
okay.
I don't think it should have been all lives matter because if all lives matter, we wouldn't have been treated the way, our ancestors wouldn't have been treated the way they were for so long.
I feel that. But it's not just our ancestors that were treated wrong.
Bruh.
Okay.
Right.
So I think this brings up healthy skepticism, as well as this brings up full perspective. So I really think we have a great opportunity to dive into intersectionality, marginalization, and use this as a growing platform because as a growing conversation, because outside of the scope of Black Lives Matter, there is a space for us to transcend all of this idea. And so how we're transcending this idea is very, very vital to understanding how we can be more intentional about our own lives, as well as understanding marginalization. But first, let's go ahead and talk about activism. How are we defining activism? What is activism?
I feel that activism is a consistent action that's being taken in order to, in the hopes of making change in the world.
I agree. I also feel like it's a resistance to an idea, feeling as if it may impact you badly, basically, negatively, per se. Would be a better word.
So you guys are telling me ideally, socially, politically, it is to have a counter thought or a difference of opinion than the mainstream or the dictating thought at that particular time. Okay, so why do we think activism is revolutionary? What is so changing about being an activist?
I feel as if activism is revolutionary because without activism, there would still be slaves. We wouldn't have all the opportunities that we have today.
And all the riots that have taken place throughout history to make changes, like
black people marching and gay people marching, all types of all stuff like that that actually makes change.
It's revolutionary because it shows that the world can evolve with the proper actions. Like, it may seem like me having my opinion does not matter, but if I take a step to try to change, it'll most like 9 out of 10 make a change in the world.
I think it's also revolutionary because of the way that you can take a step. And so it's not fitted to just one action that you can take. There's a plethora of actions that can be taken in order to invoke some type of change.
All right, so we're talking about steps. Where do you think being a revolutionist or being a change agent starts?
I don't know. I think it starts with your mindset. If you're not open-minded, you can't think forward to a different type of future. You would stay where the world is now. You would be content with what we do every day.
Yeah, I think starting with the mindset is important because if you're not mentally prepared for a change, then how can you invoke change in the world?
I agree. If you're not ready to work hard to make that change, you can't just give up at the first sight that it may not work. You have to keep going and keep striving for it to be better. You can't just give up right when you feel like nothing's gonna change. Yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like you need to know what the steps you're going to take forward with what you want to get done.
I think you guys are, so what I'm getting, the general consensus is that activism seeds in the heart and it compels a new thought. And from the thought, it now creates changed behaviors or a new approaches that we're going to address major platforms, whether it is societal, political, just these different narratives that have been set, particularly oftentimes by propaganda, and it is being pushed. Okay, so is activism radical? Why or why not?
I think activism is radical because it's a radical way of thinking. You're thinking out of the norm of everybody else. You're thinking beyond what's mainstream, so it is radical.
I would say that it could be radical. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but again, if you consider activism as something challenging the status quo, then you could consider that as radical. But there's people that approach change in different manners, like W.E. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, in which someone's more radical than the other, and one is approaching it with a desire to take baby steps in order to gradually change the social norms.
I think that is important that we understand the context of radical, because oftentimes radical comes with a negative connotation. And so there are a variety of ways that you can be a revolutionist. And if something is starting in the mind, or that is the first step that it is take, that is a gentle blossoming of thought. All right. And so this is something that is emerging from within ourselves. And so it is gently going to compel us to take action. It is going to compel us to address a problem, which is quite gentle. I don't think that activism has to be so in your face. And oftentimes that is what it is pushed as, it is a radical thing. And it isn't. It is merely being able to address issues that are not equitable. Okay? So, how does marginalization affect various groups of populations? How does marginalization, and so Kevin and I were speaking earlier, how do you contextualize marginalization?
I would contextualize it as keeping a person within margins, and so you're being stuck within almost a vicious cycle that you can't escape. And so the margins act as a barrier in order for you to have some type of activist revolutionary change within your life.
So, understanding that marginalization affects a variety of different people. It it affects people based upon age, race, gender, exceptionalities, sexuality, classism. I mean, there you can just continue to double down on how people are affected by marginalization. So understanding that marginalization is a means of making someone feel other, how can you use your space of intersectionality to advocate for the betterment of humanity?
I just want to say, I think that marginalization is like slowly but surely being diminished because once again, social media and even music, people are, well, different races and cultures, they're all listening to the same music, they're all doing the same things on social media, and in a way it's almost bringing them together. It's not like they're doing their own separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
When looking at intersectionality, I think it's important because it allows you to have perspective of someone else's marginalization. And so marginalization, as you said, goes across a broad range of spectrum. And so it's not just black people that are going through marginalization. It's other people of color, it's other people of race, other people of ethnicities, gender, and age. And so we get to take that intersectionality and we intersect through experiences. And so therefore we can understand each other based on those experiences in order to come to an understanding and be able to make a change through that understanding.
I think that is really strong when we're talking about using the understanding and compassion. Because when we're able to understand our own selves and we're giving empathy to our own marginalization, this does allow for us to take that space of intersectionality where our experiences may be different, but we understand what it feels to be oppressed, what it feels to be marginalized, what it feels to be other than, and use that as a means of advocacy for someone else. So the experience doesn't have to be personal for you to empathize with someone who doesn't look like you, who doesn't think like you, who doesn't speak like you. You know, even in engaging with someone who has different thoughts, understanding that sometimes our own thoughts are contrary to what we feel we should be believing, you know, or we feel like we should be doing, there is a space for us to be empathetic. And so when engaging with someone else, that is a means of intersectionality and compassion being taken based upon our own approach, right? Mm-hmm. So how are we using spaces of intersectionality to advocate for ourselves and maybe other people?
I feel like social media is a great way to advocate for others because now you're seeing what other people are going through, even though it's not in front of your eyes. You're seeing like stories of people going missing and stuff like that. So I think it's a great way to advocate on social media because I know everybody's going to see it.
It is a great way to see that you're not the only one going through something. It is something that you can come together with and also fight for it together. I do think that social media is helpful in that aspect.
So what about people who are not using social media? So what about doctors? What about teachers? What about lawyers? Anyone, artists? What are our thoughts about those people also doing activism and even ministers and teachers? I mean, there is a way for everyone to do active work. So would anyone like to expound on that?
I would. I feel like to an extent, it's almost critical that people with status have some type of active voice. However, we've seen cases where there's actors that are kind of falling off the rails, and so they take an opportunity like Black Lives Matter that's at the forefront of things that are being talked about and using that for clout. And so they're taking in what it is that the audience is seeing and they're putting themselves at the forefront rather than what it is that's truly needing to be addressed. And so sometimes it's good and then sometimes it can be bad. Like cases where, let's say, civil rights movement in America, we needed I felt that it was crucial that the white people were a part of the movement because it allowed other people to have some type of relation to see that there isn't just people that are fighting for it that are of color, but people that are not of color are noticing that there's something wrong there, there's something that needs to be changed.
That is a great example of intersectionality. When we're talking about other people understanding that this is a problem and my own understanding of myself, I'm now going to be compelled to action. In addition to activism, oftentimes we think that it is about hitting the streets or, you know, doing this, but there are so many ways that we can bingo activism. Mm-hmm. You know, it is encouraging others to vote and helping people get registered. It is also using your platform to encourage and uplift other voices. It is also being a change agent where you are. You know, as an educator, I feel like a means of activism is, for me, is to be inclusive of the world around me. You know, and so to create a space, a safe space for anybody of any creed, any background to come into a classroom and feel valued and to feel loved. For me, that is a radical approach to activism and to being a change agent, because we know that compassion heals and typically moves people in amazing ways. Because when I'm able to build relationship with someone, or when I'm able to empathize or feel loved or valued from someone, it now makes me see them differently. You know, regardless of how people are going about things, when people are able to feel connected, when people build relationship, when people build love, you know, and feel love for someone or compassion for someone, oftentimes they don't want to hurt them. You know, oftentimes it compels them to think in ways that they were unaware of before. And so being able to play in that space is revolutionary. It is groundbreaking. It is radical. And that is also a gentle means of activism. And so it doesn't matter where you are, how you can do the work of being an activist by merely unfolding and getting quite familiar with yourself and then other groups and other communities. So why is cross-cultural understanding great, or having cross-cultural experiences really important to understanding activism and how you can do that type of work?
Piggybacking off what y'all said, I think the best part that I saw with Black Lives Matter was that it wasn't just black people like posting Black Lives Matter, it wasn't just black people marching. To see other races and other people coming in to show that, hey, like when you think about it, Black lives do matter. They've been treated wrong for so many years. Like, it's time to say something about it. And when you see that, it really shows you like it's not just black, like we're really one people. Like, you're a person, I'm a person, he's a person, and that's how the world should see each other.
Mm-hmm. I think that is strong. I think that is a strong statement that we should see each other as oneness, and in humanity there is a oneness, and also understanding that there are slight differences amongst people, but also those differences, regardless of whatever hue they are, you know, it is obsolete when it comes to being human. And also in seeing someone is to see their differences and to make them feel valued because of those things. And so when we're talking about a multicultural approach to pretty much Black Lives Matters or any organization, people who are not, I guess, the targeted audience joining the movement is really, really important. So do we have any closing remarks about activism? How are you guys doing the work of being an activist or a change agent?
I feel as if you don't just want to say things, you want to make sure you do things, like encourage people to vote, sign petitions and stuff like that.
Okay.
I would argue against that, and maybe dialing it down and allowing people to understand that it isn't something that has to be super radical and out there. It can be something subliminal that causes or invokes some type of behavioral change, or maybe even a difference in thought that could possibly invoke change later on in the future.
Yeah, I like that. Like, basically my goal when I see a new person or have to be around somebody is to treat them how I want to be treated, and I want to change some of that person's life off my first interaction with them, no matter who you are.
I would just say that if you see something that you feel like you want to change, something that you feel like is very important to not only you, but to the people around you, your community, your generation, your peoples, definitely try to take a step forward in making it happen. Such as, she was talking about voting. I did a voter registration drive for teens and stuff like that. So just trying to keep it pushing and keep going, because even though it may seem like, oh, this may not work, don't always try to, while you should, think about the restrictions, think about a way to not be restricted. So always have a plan to make it work and don't give up so easily.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay. So I appreciate all of you guys sharing your thoughts, as you being here and talking about a controversial issue as such is a means of activism. And your ability to even agree and disagree and still be respectful of each other, or, is a means of activism, and it is being a change agent. And I know each of you have been students of mine, and I find you all to be activists and change agents because you have been life-changing and revolutionary in my own personal life and personal experiences. So thank you for that. And as we are building a more equitable, mindful, and sustainable world, remember that you are in control of your life. So remember to always school your life.
Okay. Question. You talking about other people have suffered. Go ahead. I just want to explain. Just hold on, wait. I just want to go ahead. I just want you to just explain to me.
Explain to you?
I do understand what you're saying, but just give me like an instance where another group has suffered. Go ahead.
I mean, we can draw the photo
Go
right
ahead,
now.
just-
I have to show you Mexican on a plantation.
On a plantation?
Yeah, right now.
On a what?
On a plantation.
Do you know who else is on the
They're actually
plantation?
picking cotton right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Do you know who was picking cotton for centuries?
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
But I'm just saying, like, you.
I get what you're
I feel like
saying,
I understand
okay.
what you're saying too.
You said
right?
Mexicans?
As
Oh.
being the biggest
Yeah.
But I feel
people who
like,
suffered, okay.
Black
But that's
lives.
what I'm
Also have to
saying.
look-
Black
they
Lives Matter
say-
includes
they say
everyone.
minorities
Exactly.
of color, like people.
Exactly. Black Lives Matter is just not what we're talking about.
It's like you're saying all lives matter, and of course all lives matter, but for all lives matter, you need to understand, like,
You need to start
You need to
somewhere. I get
pickpocket
that.
at what's pressing right now.
You need to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't feel like you did get that though, because
You need to start somewhere. I had to say that.
see, okay, right, go ahead, Mr. Davis.
No, I just can't look at
You okay? All right. So ultimately, I think it's important that we understand it's okay for him to feel the way that he
Oh yeah,
feels.
agree to disagree.
And you don't take that personal because he is still your brother. He is still your friend. He is, yeah. It's nothing against you. We come to different awarenesses, and we're gonna all be of different thoughts, but it doesn't mean that we can't walk the journey together. Because each of us all have, at some point or another, disagreed with someone or something about a particular topic. But in the disagreement, there is a chord that allows for us to build unity. And when we're building context, we can never be dismissive of where someone else is. And so in understanding that, it is important for them to stand on their thoughts. And you don't you don't try to force them to think anything other than where they are. You have to hold space for people to be where they are. And you accept that. And it is important for you to build a bridge over to where they are. Because that is where the revolutionary work takes place. That is where the activism takes place. That is where you're demonstrating and you're activating love. Activism is an action word. It is a demonstration of something. And so that is very vital when it comes to understanding that there are going to be infinite thoughts. And from us encountering and doing life together, there is going to be a bridge for us to build denture. And so that is, great that we're able to have this dialogue. And it's good that we're able to feel some way. Because us feeling some way brings about change. Us feeling some type of way allows for us to be more empathetic. And it also allows for us to go inward. So, are all hearts and minds clear?
Yeah.
All right, again, I appreciate you guys for the dialogue. I think it was powerful. I think it was profound. I think it was poignant and riveting, and it was honest. And so, thank you for showing up and being revolutionary for this.
Thank you.
Let's talk about what Mr. Williams said was important to him.
Yeah.
That made my little heart.
You're off and on your way, up and away, yeah. We parlay in the morning, we party throughout the day, up and away, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Up on delay, yeah. Up and away, yeah.
Yes, sir.
School is like the only way.
School is important in life, you gotta be educated. Go through life with no regrets, cause you regret if you hesitate. And strive to be the best, the obstacles gon' leave you aggravated. But once you succeed, you gon' feel great, you have to celebrate it. You gotta make sure that you treasure it. School and life, forget the nonsense, it's irrelevant. Be what you put your mind to, you could be the president. Greatness you achieve for your people, you gotta
It
represent.
goes up and away, yeah. Today's the best day ever, you're off and on your way, up and away, yeah. We parlay in the morning, we party throughout the day, up and away, yeah. Up on delay, yeah. Up and away, yeah. School ain't like the only way. Each day when you wake up, either you're taking intentional steps to being your best self, or you're moving further away from your truth and your goals. There is a difference between being self-focused and self-centered. Value yourself. Love yourself. Hype yourself up because you're dope. It is perfectly okay to be your biggest fan with purpose. Yo, you got this.